everyone, and welcome once again to the semi-monthly pull. I'm Captain Logan,
I'm Eric.
and Eric is going to be filling in once again for Manos. Manos is still having some computer issues. So, Eric, what is your first book for this week?
My first book was actually something that wasn't on my pull list. It just kind of got thrown in my box, and my comic book shop guy was like, I didn't know if you wanted this. It's a 6-issue miniseries called Thor for Asgard. Um, and I can't really afford to have another book on my list, but I couldn't say no to the cover. I sent you a picture of the cover earlier.
Oh, okay,
And
I
it's
haven't looked
just
at it yet. Should I
it's
look at it now?
yeah, look at it now.
Because you told me I couldn't look at it till you said so.
Yeah, and now I'm saying so. And the cover
Okay.
is just beautiful, and it's even more beautiful when I took it out of the wrapping because it's a wraparound cover.
Oh, that
Uh,
is
I know, right?
wow. He looks huge. He's got this giant cape, and he looks huge.
uh, what the artist did, what that was really interesting is that basically he just took like the straight up like standard Thor designs and made them look more Viking-esque. Like it's like if you look at Thor on that cover, that's the Jack Kirby costume, but it's kind of Viking-esque. And that's the thing about this entire issue is that the thing is the story doesn't entice me enough to necessarily pick up the next issue. But if it gets thrown in my box again, I'm not going to be able to say no because it's. I don't usually recommend books on the artwork, but this is a beautiful book.
Yeah, that's really funny.
It's really like and the thing is it's I told you what we were saying before we started recording was going to come back up again. This is Conan Thor. Like this is full blown fantasy. It's very kind of violent and whatnot. Um,
Okay.
it's interesting because it actually kind of reminds me of some of the Conan books that they've done over at I think it's IDW or Dark Horse, whoever does the Conan books. Um, the other thing that's interesting is continuity. I think this takes place before Thor goes to Earth. Um, there's no specific mentions of anything, but Odin's missing, and they're in Asgard. Anybody who follows Thor knows that Odin's dead, and Asgard is. I'm not sure where Asgard is right now. For a while, it was in the middle of America. Then it was in Latveria. I'm not sure where it is now. But this is clearly like pre-Thor superhero Thor. So this is just like straight up fantasy, which I know a lot of people have been asking for with Thor. And the story's good enough, I guess. It's not a great story. The writing is very, very over the top, like epic fantasy kind of writing, kind of like Lord of the Rings. Um, but the artwork is just absolutely beautiful, and they're like, there's not a single like panel in this book where I'm like, it's like he really cheaped out on the faces there, or like it's a beautiful book, and the ending has an interesting twist where Thor gets up from his bed and goes to his hammer and he can't lift it because the kind of subtext, not the subtext, but the kind of subplot of this issue is that Odin's missing, Thor is in charge, and he's not making the best decisions. And the Norse god of war, I don't remember what his name is, but Norse god of war is kind of like working as an advisor. And Sif is telling Thor like you shouldn't listen to this guy. He's not a good guy. And it's just it's a beautiful book. So I'm mostly recommending it on art because it's beautiful. Uh, so yeah, it's on to you.
It looks really pretty. I
Yeah,
don't
and
know if I
that's
would like
that's
reading it at all, but it looks really pretty.
that's that's my recommendation. Is it looks pretty.
All right. My first pick this week is Batman 702. Now, I know that there are folks that are not loving this RIP missing chapter thing. I have this, and I mentioned this in the Captain's Log last week, but I have kind of this somewhat unique perspective of I didn't read Final Crisis, and like I know the gist of Final Crisis, and I know what happened with Bruce Wayne and all that, but it was kind of nice to get to see it without having to go back and read that, and I will. I should, but I kind of liked just the way that it was revisited, how totally epic it looked, and there's some just really, I guess I'm kind of recommending this on art also, but there's some just really cool giant full page spreads of things, and especially Batman getting hit with the Omega Beam just looks really really cool and impressive, and I really enjoyed all of the talk about you making a big deal out of Batman, doesn't use guns, but he has to make an exception in this case and all that kind of stuff. 701 I felt like was slightly unnecessary, although I did feel like it filled in blanks. I was like, oh, I have a better understanding of what's going on with Morrison stuff, but I don't understand why this couldn't have been like why some of the story couldn't have actually been, where it fit sequentially. And here, I was actually glad to get this now where it was because it leads right up to the beginning of Return of Bruce Wayne, and it does a really nice job of bookending stuff. So you get Bruce Wayne hit with the Omega Beam, and then he basically walks right into the first issue of Return of Bruce Wayne, and I really liked that. So I don't know. I'm recommending this for the sake of completion, if nothing else, and really pretty artwork from Tony Daniel.
All right, so my second pick is Avengers: The Children's Crusade issue 2, which is kind of technically speaking just the third arc in Young Avengers. Anybody knows the history of Young Avengers, that they had basically 12 issues, uh, and then just nothing for years because the writer is an executive producer for Grey's Anatomy, so he has a little bit going on. Um, and the big thing with this book, and it's not going to matter in 10 years, but right now it kind of matters, its continuity is all over the place. And they said this in the first issue. They're like, look, the continuity does not make sense. We apologize. Because this was clearly started years ago. Um, clearly the dialogue's been polished up a little bit to make it seem like it's taking place now. But both the artwork and the writing very kind of clearly make this. It takes place before Civil War, but it's taking place now. It's. I have a
Weird.
feeling. I have a feeling that whatever's going to happen with the Scarlet Witch and whatnot is going to make it need to take place now. But you just kind of have to accept that everything's being written pre-Civil War. Tony, not, Tony is still in his Civil War armor. Uh, Steve Rogers is still Captain America. Magneto's clearly not the Magneto in the X-Men books right now. You just kind of have to roll with that. And again, like I said, in 10 years, no one's going to care. Uh, but just as a story, this is great. This was kind of on my chopping block. Like I liked the first issue. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to, keep with this. Uh, this was absolutely fantastic. There's a final page reveal that's just really, really good. All the characters are just as good as they were when he first wrote the series. Although based on the writing in this, there's a good chance that maybe he wrote the first couple of issues back when he wrote the first series. Um, it's all the if you like the Young Avengers, it's all of those characters. They're back. And it's a beautiful book. It's drawn. I think it's Jim Chung. Yeah, it's Jim Chung who drew the original issues. And Magneto's in it, and he's a lot of fun. And Quicksilver's in it, and it's dealing with the stuff that was set up in the second arc of Young Avengers, which is these two characters, Wiccan and Speed, who may be the children of the Scarlet Witch, which also ties into House of M. There's a lot of continuity in this, not in a bad way, but in like an honoring the past. And this is clearly a sequel to some of the early Bendis stuff like House of M. But this is just a really, really good book, and I really recommend picking this up if you liked the Young Avengers. I don't know if this was really a book to just jump onto, but if you like that other stuff, I would definitely recommend it.
My final pick for this week is Superman Batman number 75. This is not on my pull right now, but I picked up 74 and really enjoyed it, and found out they were doing this big double supersized thing for 75, so I thought I'd pick it up and give it a shot. And man, this came out this week, but I swear to God, this book was written in the 80s. I love this stuff. It doesn't feel like what people have been writing Batman and Superman lately, and it just takes me back. So basically, there's like a main story, and then there's a bunch of extra stuff in the back, which is fun that some books have that some of these like double-sized things have started doing some of that again. And the main story is pretty good. It opens with I have to tell you this. It opens with a sentence that reading the first half of the sentence I laughed out loud and my wife looked at me strange because it's this narration box and you're in the future and it says in the year of our Lex 1042 and I was like really there's like there's like this cult of people who worship Lex Luthor in the future and that's a good enough reason to buy the book, I think. But yeah, so like there's this cult of like Lex Luthor believers who think he's gonna come back from the dead by like cloning himself, of course. And basically they like in order to make this happen, they create another Lex Luthor who's, of course, fused with kryptonite, and then they send him back in time to kill Superman. And then the Legion of Superheroes has to go back and get Batman and Superman's help to stop the Lex clone from killing Superman. And it's, I don't know, it's a lot of fun if you like Legion of Superhero stuff. I generally am not a big fan of Legion of Superheroes, but this plot grabbed me because it was really hilarious, if nothing else. And then there's a lot of fun two-page stories in the back. There's a couple of just really cool pieces of artwork that various people have done, and then there's these like nice little two-page stories. Some of them are funny, some of them are not. And one that was especially interesting to me was this thing that seems to be set in the in either the Batman Beyond future or even maybe a little bit past the Batman Beyond future. Um, where Damian is Batman and Connor is Superman, and they're standing next to this like big statue of Superman and Batman who have apparently somehow both died, and now they've taken on the.
Damien as Batman is something that's been covered in Morrison's run. It's been something he's been setting up for a while.
Yeah, and it's but they're also talking about Batman Beyond a little bit too. It's like that's he's still Batman also, and it's cool. And I'm kind of wondering if that was just there to be kind of fun or if they're actually going somewhere with that. And it looks like with Batman Beyond going on now, and with it maybe with it becoming a monthly and stuff like that, I think there's actually something to this little two-page spread in the back here. So anyway, all in all, it's a lot of bang for your buck, and I was really quite impressed with it, and would like to continue reading this book, especially if Ordway stays on it drawing, because it's really a pretty book. So anyway, that's all my stuff. So yeah, so thanks a lot for listening to the semi-monthly poll. Eric, I might have you on the show again sometime soon.
Okay. I'll
Um,
these past 2 weeks were better than the past 2 weeks of the last video.
they were
Where I
for
was,
me too. I actually had to pick between a few things.
yeah, like last time I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna put on here. This week, I also had a couple of things I was like, maybe this, or maybe this.
Well, thanks a lot for listening, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Adios.